Hello, lads and ladies, and welcome back for another video on the channel. The return of some Sky Bet League 2 content. Now, the season is just around 6 weeks away from completion, so we're going to go through the League 1 top half, really. Have a look and who's in contention for the playoffs, who's in contention for the top three. We're going to break it down, but I am joined by my good mate, Jack Goodwin. How are we, mate?
I'm all right. I look like an absolute idiot with this headset on, but after hearing myself back sounding like a Cyberman out of the 1960 Doctor Who series from the last time I came on this show, I thought I'd invest in some proper gear. So I hopefully sounding a bit better.
Absolutely. It's good to have you on as well. I will leave Jack's links down below as well. Twitter. He always puts some opinions on there as well. And yeah, so some good work over on his page as well. So let's start off. We're going to start off with teams that are in small chances of playoffs. Now, the likes of Swindon Town are 11 points off the playoffs. They've got 27 points left. Very unlikely. The same can be said about Fleetwood Town, whose defeat away at Colchester and dropping points recently to Notts County and then against Port Vale leaves them with a lot to do, unlikely being 9 points off. Cheltenham also in the same bracket, hitting 50 points. They are pretty much, let's get to the end of the season, rebuild and reset. Chesterfield, however, have a game in hand and are only 7 points off. They won against Notts County 2-1. They beat Salford City 4-0. They had to fight back to win against Newport County. However, before that, they lost to Colchester away from home, lost at home to Crewe, defeats on the road at the county ground. They were struggling. However, some light in the last few weeks as well. Got a few players back. They've lost a lot of players through injury, players going back who were on loan. Do you think this Chesterfield side still stand a chance?
I think they definitely do. I think looking at that mid-table collection of teams, I personally think out of those mid-table teams, the side that can go in with the most momentum, considering the 3 games they've won beforehand and their upcoming 4 fixtures, which include Harrogate, Barrow, Carlisle, and Tranmere. I mean, and Gillingham. 5. Can even chuck Fleetwood in there for the next 6.
Season over as well. So
not every game. And I'm not saying any game is easy, but it's certainly a easier run for Chesterfield, who certainly can outscore teams. I mean, a general rule of the thumb to see the quality of the team sometimes is to look at the goal difference, and it's plus 14. So for a mid-table side, for a side banging mid-table, plus 14, that's showing that maybe they're not edging out those tight games and maybe they're conceding a few too many, but they can score goals. One of the top goal scorers in the league. They've got one of the top managers in the league. They've got some top players. I think they were favourites with the bookmakers at the start of the season. They were certainly up there. So I certainly wouldn't rule them out. I had them as league title winners, so I'm hoping they will get at least into the playoffs. So it saves me in a bit of an embarrassment at the end of the season. But ever since Paul Cook came, and I can't remember which game it was, but it was about a month ago now, and he came out and he absolutely lambasted his players. He was fuming with his players. He said, that's playoffs gone. They need to sort out the mentality and whatnot. He was not happy at all. All of a sudden, they've won the last 3 games. Got a little bit of a run. I wouldn't rule them out, Ben. I certainly wouldn't rule them out.
They scored 58 goals, Jack, which again says everything you need to know. Only Walsall on 67 have scored more goals than them. Yes, they have conceded 44, the same amount of Doncaster, who sit 4th. They only conceded 5 more than Notts County, 7 more than Vale. Colchester, again, a lot better defensively. We'll come to them in a bit. It says a lot about Andy Woodman's Bromley that we're still talking about Bromley 37 games into the season in a playoff charge a little bit as well. They are 6 points outside with 27 to play for. The rule of thumb, if the teams keep averaging their points per game, you'd imagine they'll probably from 27 maybe go and get 14, 15. That'll then go meet Bromley, going to have to go and get 21-ish points to get into the playoffs, which is difficult. That's how unlikely as the season goes on. It's only 6 points, but then you've got to wait for them to drop points a little bit as well, and you've got to be pretty much perfect. For Bromley, I think the rule of thumb is for me is how many times have a side lost? And before this Colchester run, where they'd only won 9 games, they'd only lost 7. Bromley have only lost 11 games this season. Grimsby have lost 4 times more than them. Crewe have, again, been really good in terms of not losing, picking up points. They've drawn 15 times this year. Vale have hardly lost games of football. Even Walsall, this up until recently, they weren't losing games of football, always adding points. And that says a lot for Andy Woodman's Bromley. They've been fantastic. For me, Jack, we talk about teams going on a run. Now, Salford City won 6 games on the bounce between December and January. Then got, let's be honest, hammered at Manchester City 8-0. No problem from that. They then lost Negru, who went back to Oxford. They lost to Fleetwood. Then Negru came back into the football club the game after. Do you think that game against Man City in a weird way has derailed them a little bit, because they weren't everybody's favourites at the start of the year? They were getting points gradually to win 6 on the spin. And ever since then, they've been a bit hit and miss. They'd lost 3 of the previous 5, drawn the other 2 before winning away at Grimsby the other day. Do you still see them within a chance? 5 points off?
Yeah, I think, again, they're probably similar to Chesterfield. Like, they do have a very good manager at this level that has proven to be able to go on good runs before. And they also do have plenty of quality within the ranks as well. So it's one that you probably can't rule out. But yeah, no, since that Man City game, they've been pretty, you said kind of hit and miss. I think they've been pretty much miss. I think they've only won 2 games since then, which is a pretty damning record when you won your 6 in a row, wasn't it? And I think
Didn't
7 and 8
goal,
before
by
then.
the way.
Yeah, it was an incredible run. Matthew Young looked like a young Petr Cech, didn't he? And then he got taken out of the team. Now he's back in. I'm not. To be fair, I'm not sure whether that was an injury or whatnot. But I know that they've kind of rotated a bit between him and is it Jamie Jones in goal? So yeah, I think Salford could get going. I don't want to sit on the fence here. Again, another team I predicted to finish automatically promotion. So I am kind of hoping they edge into the playoffs. But Cole Robinson, throughout his time at Oxford, throughout his time at MK Dons, and now at Salford, he's proven to be a bit of a streaky manager, but a good manager. I do like Cole Robinson. I think he speaks very well. I think his teams play good football. I think it was a bit of a coup for Salford at the time, who have been ran like a bit of a mess recently over recent years. But yeah, no, I would definitely not rule out Cole Robinson's Salford, because if there's any manager in this league, and I'm contradicting myself because I basically said this about Paul Cook, but who can go on a 6-7 game winning run, it's Cole Robinson, and he's shown it already this season.
They lost key players in the summer. Let's be honest about that. They lost club captain Alex Cairns, left the football club. Then they lost the likes of Matt Smith up front, Elliot Watt in midfield. When you're losing key players, you're going to struggle. There is going to be a bit of an effect where you don't kind of do as well as you maybe expect. Look, they did sign well. They signed the likes of Adelican, Cole Stockton was a big name. Hasn't really lived up to it at the start of the year as well. Tyrese Forner was an excellent signing. Lewis Warrington in January, great signing. Stefan Negru coming back to the football club. It's not like they've got a bad squad. The difference is for them this year, basically, and we're all singing Crewe's praises. They've got the same record as Crewe. Crewe have drawn 4 more, but lost 4 less. So if Salford all of a sudden turned 4 of those defeats into draws, they're in a much better position, and they're only a point outside the playoffs. They're just, again, losing too many games of football. Grimsby Town were absolutely flying, Jack. They'd won 4 on the spin after beating Fleetwood. Then, again, got a couple of draws, won again, lost the last couple. Recently beat Doncaster Rovers away. This year, they were pretty much, they'd either win or they'd lose. They've only drawn 5, but they've won 17. They've lost 15. It's a huge improvement. I think they've won 8 away games this year. They'd only won 2 last year. And that says everything you need to know. They were horrific away from home. But this year been a lot better. Dave Artell's done a really good job. And it'll be seen as a fantastic season regardless. But with a couple of defeats there recently and being in and around the playoffs, a bit of disappointment maybe if they don't kind of force a bit of a challenge in this last 8 or 9 games or so.
I'd like to think not. I think, as you've pointed out, it would still be, a top half finish for Grimsby, who Dave Artell was brought in last year, and potentially looked like he could have been sacked himself. They looked really like down in the doldrums. It looked like they were going to have to regroup in non-league again. I think if you put on a more sensible head, if you're a Grimsby supporter, a Mariner, then I would like to think that they will still appreciate that it will be a good season, a season of progress. And this is not us writing them out of the top 7, of course not. But I think Dave Artell has come out a couple of times and said, I know what a good team looks like, and Grimsby aren't that at the moment, because obviously he had a fantastic side with Crewe Alexandra. And he said a couple of times that he knows this side's nowhere near as good as his Crewe side. We said before about the goal difference. They're currently on -3. They've lost 15 games. If they, like you said about Crewe, if they could have drawn 5 more of those games, they'd be right up there in the top 5, wouldn't they? So I certainly think it's been a season of progress. And to be fair, all the teams we've kind of talked about, Bromley, what an excellent season they've had. Chesterfield, even though they've come up and there was heavy expectation on them to finish top half first season in League 2, it's not a bad thing. Salford, it looked like they were going to be relying on a load of youngsters as well. And even Grimsby here, they're currently 9th in the playoff talk come the last final 9 games. I think it's been a pretty top season for Grimsby, and let's hope they can continue.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all have these teams on a run, and you pick up a bit of momentum. All of a sudden, you're up there as well. And again, when you're winning one, losing one, Pete Wild at Fleetwood always identifies as a point and a half a game, 69 points. Well, you look at Grimsby at this moment in time, they are pretty much a point and a half a game, which is in around that mark. You win a few games in a row, you go above that 1.5, you're going to be in the mix. You build momentum. Crewe Alexandra this year, Jack, I've always said about them, I don't look at that squad and think superstar. Whereas, like you look at a Notts County, you think Jatta, you think McGoldrick, you think Jody Jones. You think of Walsall, you thought of Nathan Lowe at the start of the season. You think of Stimpkin in goal. Bradford City, you think of promotion winners in Sarcevic, who's won so many promotions at its level as well. Smallwood, Mellon, etc. as well. But when you look at Crewe, they've just got a decent squad all round. Disappointment last year in the playoff final, losing to Crawley. Good squad with the likes of Holacek, Knight LaBelle, Thomas. Again, they've lost Shiloh Tracy. I think broke his leg against Fleetwood, which was a horror challenge. The other day, their bench kind of had Bogle, Cooney, Lancaster, Long, Powell, Sanders. It's a really good kind of strength in depth squad. They're hit and miss at the moment. They've won 2, they've drawn 3 and lost 1 in the last 6. They're still in that mix. How likely do you think they are of getting in there? Because at the moment, Colchester are in really good form. You think Port Vale have just come off the back of a 12-game unbeaten run. Notts County and Doncaster are good sides. Do you think it's a real possibility for them to get into the playoffs over a Colchester or even a Vale or a Notts County to drop out?
I think it's definitely a possibility with them 1 point off at the moment, but they seem to have a knack of drawing games where they're not great in, if that's fair to say. I think, especially in the first half of the season, I always try and make sure I go out and watch the highlights, extended highlights if possible, for all of the EFL games, because I'm a proper nerd like yourself.
I'm exactly the same, mate.
We've got no life. But yeah, I always feel like I watch the highlights, and of course that's not the full story, but when I watch the highlights, I'm rarely blown away by Crewe, and I'm rarely think, oh wow, they're dominating this game. Wow, they're miles better than them. I rarely think that, but they seem to, as I say, have a knack of edging out these tight games, and I think that's a good quality to have. I mean, they've only conceded 38 goals, so 1 per game, which is a pretty decent record. I'm a bit like you. I look at their squad. I think it's a decent squad. I always think Crewe go around in like a 4 or 5 year cycle. 4 or 5 years ago, when they had Dave Artell and won promotion from League 2, and they had a good season in League 1, that was like the end of their cycle, and then they go again because all the Harry Pickering and Perry Ng, they all get sold, and then again because Crewe have got such a good product of homegrown players coming through the system, and they've they've got a good recruitment team as well. They always seem to have good young players mixed in with a nice blend of Mickey Dimitriou and, as you say, Omar Bogle and, these players that have got plenty of experience, but then they get these young players and then you start to see them bear the fruits. And I think we're starting to see that with this Crewe side. There's some good players in their squad, especially young players that are coming to life. So yeah, I will not write off Crewe at all. I will not be surprised though if Chesterfield, who are 6 points below them at the moment, would finish above them.
And Chesterfield beat Crewe 5-0 earlier this season. Think for Crewe is the next few weeks, Jack. They've got Notts County away, Port Vale at home. They've got to play Grimsby at home, Bradford City away from home before Cheltenham visit them on the 10th of April on a Thursday night in League Two. No comment on that. Colchester away, followed by Milton Keynes Dons at home. Then you've got Tranmere, who could still be fighting for their lives come then, followed by top of the league Walsall. Now, a lot of these could be done and dusted by then, but that is a tough run. They are tough games. And also in Notts County as well. It's not just Notts County being a good side. You put a big crowd there. All of a sudden, I don't know about you when you're in these games myself with Fleetwood, there's a bit more of a fear factor there. If you played that game, Notts County, in your own stadium, you'd be a bit more optimistic. But if you put it in a stadium where it was half the size, all of a sudden it's not as daunting. I know that the footballers they played in bigger stadiums, and a lot of them Notts County might be the biggest. I just wonder how this side will cope a little bit as well. But this side has been through it in the recent years as well. But one side that I'm really impressed with is Danny and Nicky Cowley's Colchester United. Well organised, hard to break down, hard to beat, and they're very infectious. Good players. Anderson, you've got Lyle Taylor, Samson Tavidi was out the other day, but they still managed without him as well. I thought they were absolutely outstanding against Fleetwood on Saturday afternoon. I thought especially Aora Edwards, I would go to far and say that was the best performance I have seen against Fleetwood this season. And probably one of the best performances I've seen on a pitch in the EFL with my own eyes being at a game this year as well. He was fantastic. They're currently 13 games unbeaten. They've won 5 on the spin. They're in the playoffs. Last year, they just about avoided safety. This isn't a squad that should be fighting above the relegation zone like it was last year. But boy, what a job Danny Cowley's done, Jack.
Yeah, and it's no surprise. I'm sure if I troll back through my tweets that I will have been praising Colchester for appointing Danny Cowley, because I think it was a real coup for him to come to the bottom end of League Two to take a job, because I like Danny Cowley. I like Nicky Cowley. I think they do good jobs pretty much everywhere they've been, apart from Portsmouth, really, which wasn't a disastrous job.
No, I thought they built the foundations there.
I was about to say they laid the foundations for John Messina, didn't they? And maybe it did come to its end. But yeah, no, I've always been a fan of Danny Cowley, and he's that sort of old school manager that you listen to and you think, if he was a bit younger and I had a daughter, I'd think I'd be happy for him to come home with my daughter, because I just think he comes across as a genuine, decent bloke. So if I was a dad and I was 30 years older and Danny was 30 years younger, I'd think, yeah, what a lovely man to bring home. What a lovely man to bring through my grandchildren. But then in terms of football as well, he makes them so solid. They're so tough to beat. They don't concede many opportunities. And if you've been following Colchester this season, even when they were down in the bottom 6, bottom 8 of the table, the data, the underlying data and the stats and the fact they weren't losing many games, were drawing a lot of games, were indicating that Colchester, in fact, were a decent side, as they should be, because they've got a good side. They've got plenty of good players within the ranks, and they have done for quite a few years now. I think they're a side that's been underachieving ever since they finished 7th under John McGreal, was it? And then they just... Yeah, and they went through spells of going through interim managers, and then Hayden Mullins was in charge at one point. And yeah, they just had some very, very bizarre and poor managerial appointments where they kind of shot themselves in the foot, because I felt for years they've had a decent side. I remember commentating at Colchester with Rochdale for their iFollow, and I remember going down, and it was a bit of a 6-pointer down at the bottom the year Dale got relegated. I remember looking at the players they had, and you're thinking, Christ, you shouldn't be anywhere near a relegation fight. And now, all it takes is get a decent gaffer in, keep some of the players, keep that budget, keep some of the good players in the flying. Yeah, and you can't rule them out of finishing in the top three as the way they're going. I'd probably be willing to hedge a bet that Colchester will get top three for the way they're going.
I think that the squad at the start of the year, I put them, 11th as my underdogs. You look at Flanagan, experience with his time at Sunderland and Shrewsbury. Anderson has been with him at 3 clubs, I think Ebbsfleet, Lincoln City, and now Colchester. Jack Payne, for me, is the best technical player in the division. I think he's got the most key pass in the division. I think that he's got the second most assists in the division behind Denver Hume at Grimsby. Then you've got players like Taylor, Samson Tavide, Edwards, Landola, who I thought was outstanding in midfield the other day as well. Experiences of Hunt, Matt Macy, Egbo at right back. And then that's not even mentioning the likes of Jack Tucker, who they brought in, Tyrese Simpson. So they've got a really good squad, and everybody will think Colchester shouldn't be there because of the name Colchester. But if you gave Colchester squad to Bradford, you'd rate Bradford City a lot higher, wouldn't you? Do you not? And there's often that perceived, and I always bang on about, like Barnsley in League One, I keep saying I don't think they should be anywhere near the playoffs, but people think they are because of the name Barnsley Football Club and where they've been in previous years. So he's noted that this culture squad is a lot better than what it is. Port Vale, I think they went 11 games unbeaten, and they won 5, drew 6. They drew the last 3 of it. However, they went 10 games unbeaten earlier in the season where they won 8 and drew 2. There's a better feel-good factor then in my eyes to what there was then. They weren't great in games. They weren't great against Fleetwood. They weren't great against Colchester. However, that massive win against Milton Keynes on 3-0, getting goals for Talai, who's been outstanding this year as well. Talai's record when he's in the squad, I think they've lost twice when he started. Jaden Stockley back with the gone, Ben Garrity, Ronnie Curtis getting assists as well. I just think it's changed the complexion of their season because now all of a sudden they're thinking they're 2 points outside of Wimbledon with a game in hand. This Vale side, are they one that you think will be definitely in the playoffs? For me, I think they will finish inside the top 7. I think you're more looking at this Vale side to finish inside the top 3. What I look at is they've only conceded 37 goals. Yes, they've only scored 47, but they're not losing games of football. They've probably drawn a few too many. But if they go on average, again, 1.8 points a game until the end of the year, 79 points, I think that'll be enough for them.
Yeah, it's interesting that we've gone from Colchester about maybe having a good side but not expecting it. And I think that's the issue with Port Vale, and maybe that's why the good feel isn't there, Ben, because I think Port Vale coming into the season had the best side on paper. They made some excellent signings, some players that probably shouldn't be playing in League Two football. The likes of Ronan Curtis and Jaden Stockley kind of coming into League Two. These are heavyweight players for the division. George Byers, has he been playing much? George Byers plays.
Yeah, George Byers is. He's been out a bit injured as well, but their main midfield 3 hardly played together for the most half of this year.
Right. Yeah. So obviously, that's very base level looking at the quality of a squad and kind of looking at it on paper that. But I think coming into the season with the relegation, Darren Moore, who only a couple of years ago got promoted to the Championship, I think Port Vale supporters will have been thinking, right, this could be our season to just entertain and run away with it. And it's not been quite that, has it?
No.
They don't score too many goals.
No.
For a side that's got quite a lot of attacking quality, but maybe we shouldn't be surprised about that with Darren Moore in charge, who I think kind of maybe favours to have a solid base, especially when you've got, first off season, the Conor Ripley, who's a good keeper at this level, now Ben Amos, who's an excellent keeper at this level, in my opinion. I think Port Vale, I'm not as confident about them finishing the top 3, only because the running, I was looking at it before, I'll just get it up. The running, of course, they've got Morecambe and Barrow next, but then after that, they've got quite a difficult run. And they've still got Wimbledon, Bromley, Walsall, Bradford, Crewe to play. And of course, a lot of these sides will have top sides to play, but I'm not sure Vale have got that ability to crack down a team and beat a team by dominating them, perhaps what they should be doing with the quality of the players they've got. So, yeah, I think that maybe explains a little bit as to why the supporters aren't as buoyant as maybe you'd expect. I'm not as confident about them finishing top 3. I would wager a bet that Colchester are 3 points below them, and with potentially a game less than them at the moment, because Port Vale have got a game in hand. I'd still wager that I think Colchester will finish above Port Vale.
Yeah, I'd agree with that in terms of why you think that about Colchester. I do think Vale are a side that are winning games of football because they've got quality. I do question Darren Moore's tactics, how he sets sides up. I think they're quite negative and pragmatic at times. Against Fleetwood, they're very much, well, now we're going for a bad run. I don't know what to do. And like a couple of bad performances against Harrogate on the Tuesday night, they were poor. And against sides down there, like they said at the bottom, they struggled to break down a little bit. And they fought to deceive. I've watched them against Fleetwood twice. I watched them on the box against Notts County. I've watched them against Doncaster. And I've been impressed with them at times, but then I feel like they're either a 9 or a 3, Port Vale. There's no in between, I don't think, at times. And that's my issue. Whereas Crewe are often a 6 or a 7. But that 9, if you get in the playoffs, if you hit a 9 over 3 games, doesn't matter. Whereas if you hit a 6,
I think it's an interesting one, Ben, about if you've got a top side, how do you want to play? And it's something you see in the Championship going into the Prem, League One into the Championship. Do you want to play? Typically, if you've got the best players in the league and the higher technical players in the league, you should stamp your authority on the pitch. You should dominate the ball. You should score more goals than the opposition. But one way of looking at it is if Port Vale go up, they've got a solid defensive base there to build on next season in League One, which is surely going to be more useful than a style that, say, Crawley played, have been attempting to play, who are currently, well, they're going to get relegated, aren't they? Because is it more useful if you're going up to a higher division where you're going to be the smaller fish in a bigger pond, that you've already got that defensive base to feed off? And look at Stevenage and the Steve Evans and now Alex Ravel. They went up as a solid base of a team. They're able to build on that, and now they're a competitive League One side.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I think that you look at Milton Keynes Dons, Notts County, probably football's not suited to this division. So sometimes you need to maybe be a little bit careful on what you wish for. Look, in 10 games time, if they get promoted, Darren Moore will be king and everybody will love it. It'll be King Dazza. Or when you're losing games of football, there'll be some insults there as well. Notts County are a side that, look, they were playing some really good stuff, and they're the best side, in my opinion, that I've seen overall, home and away as a team performance. They battered Fleetwood pillar to post. The defence this year, they've conceded a lot less goals. Now, they're over 80 last year, still scoring a high number of goals. That number has come down a little bit, but it's always going to be if you are better defensively. They've lost 3 of the last 4 games now, Notts County, which is a worry. Slip-ups at home to Chesterfield, slip-ups at home to Barrow, away defeat at Wimbledon with a point shared at Fleetwood, but they did manage to get a win away at Grimsby. David McGoldrick been out, come back into the side. They're 2 points off it as well, 4 points in front of Crewe. They play some great football, but I'd argue sometimes, is it suited to this league? Can they dig in? Can they grit it out on the difficult pitches? Because their pitches are a lot better than a lot of other teams. It's quite good, Meadow Lane, whereas pitches at Highbury, cutting up at the end of the year, Wimbledon, etc., they're not great pitches this time of year compared to theirs. I just worry, can they dig it out? Whereas a Wimbledon stink the gaff out, the straight, only conceded 26 goals, may not play the best of fancy football. But again, going back to your argument about how do you play it and get the best out of you, do you think this side should be, in my opinion, the top 3?
Yeah, I mean, it should be. They've got a really, really good side. And you mentioned just a bit of the quality there. I mean, David McGoldrick, Alasanya Yatta. I mean, they have a side that should be up there. Should be up there, up with Port Vale as well. And I do wonder whether sometimes that overplaying can be, can kind of kill them a bit. But I guess it's also good to be different to most of the other teams in this conversation that we're talking about, because a lot of the others, League Two has been described to me as boom ball this year, apart from Notts County and MK Dons. There might be one more, but yeah, definitely. I knew Notts County are the Notts County are the only side that are really succeeding with that style of play, aren't they? Where maybe in the past more teams have attempted to play like this, but they've certainly improved from what they were under Luke Williams and Maynard, second season at the level. If they finish in the top 7, it's probably a decent season for them. Even if they don't finish in the top 3, it's only second season at League Two. They do have some good players. I suspect they don't go up. They will rebuild and continue to build, and will probably have the top team in League Two next year, where the sole expectation will be top 3 or Maynard goes. But yeah, I think as it stands, they're doing all right. Score plenty of goals, don't they? Do I see them getting into top 3? I'm not sure.
Doncaster Rovers, for me, Jack, are a side that they've got good players, and they went through a run where they were drawing a lot of games in December time, and that has obviously been an issue for them. They have drawn 9 and lost 10, but won the other games as well. So you can clearly see there's a good side there as well. For me, the Doncaster Rovers are a side that when they're on it, they can blow you away. They beat Fleetwood 4-2 at Highbury and 2-1. The 4-2 game, they were brilliant and excellent. They did everything right. The 2-1 game, I didn't think they were great, but they got through it with not being great. And I think they've done that a lot this season under Grant McCann. However, Doncaster Rovers can go and throw in a stinker. Lost away at Bromley 1-0. Drew at home to Swindon, where they were 2-0 up after 22 minutes. And then you can see 2 goals early in the second half. Then all of a sudden, you do manage to win away at Lancashire clubs, Accrington, Stanley and Morecambe. Before that, lost to Grimsby. And there's just a slip up now and again. I'm being really harsh on Doncaster, I think, there. That's my only issue. They are in the quest, they're level on points with the top 3. They've got the same record as Wimbledon, scoring 5 more goals. But for them, 44 goals conceded, which is the most in the top 8. And then even if you take Grimsby out on 54, Bromley 45, Chesterfield 44, it's kind of a high number to be in the top 12 even as well. What do you think Grant McCann needs to do in this next 9 games to get this Doncaster Rovers side up? Carlisle at home to come. They have got to play Walsall at home, Wimbledon at home, Colchester at home, Bradford at home, and Notts County away. And that's just in the running.
Yeah, I think they just got to believe in the process, because it's interesting that you called the game against, the result against Bromley was a bit of a stinker 1-0, but I remember watching those highlights and I'm pretty sure they had over 30 shots and the ball for some reason just would not go in. Grant Smith was like,
he's great.
Unbelievable. Oh, he was unbelievable in the sticks. Like nothing would go past him. He was like Cal the Dragon if he was down playing under 7s football. Like he was just absolutely sensational. But yeah, I think Doncaster, I'm a bit of a nerd. So I'm always looking at certain metrics and data, and in most of the XG data and stuff like that. Shots on target, which I think are quite important. Doncaster come out on top and quite heavily on top in the league. So if you're looking at those sort of tables, Doncaster are supposed to be the top side. My mate, who's an analyst in the league, he also thinks that Doncaster are the best side in the league, and that they will go up there. And I do think that will continue. I think they've probably got the best player, or one of the best players, in Luke Molyneux. I think Owen Bailey's a top player as well. Yeah, I think as the season goes on, we're going to see a bit more momentum turn. We obviously saw it at the end of last year, didn't we, with Doncaster? Made that miraculous run. I think they will. I think they will finish in the top 3. I'm quite confident in that. I do believe that the variances in performances where they are playing Bromley and lose 1-0 but have 33 shots and Bromley have 5 or whatever it was.
33 I think that shots turned in the end.
It was 30. That was completely off the top of my head, but yeah, that I think that turns. I think luck. I'm a big believer that luck will start turning. You make your own luck. They're currently fourth, despite not edging out some of those tight games or not maybe getting the just rewards for results that they deserved more from. So, yeah, I think Doncaster. I'm quite confident. Not confident, but I am willing to say they will finish in the top three.
So this time last year, Jack, the last 11 games of last year, they won 10 games on the spin, and I think they drew 2-2 at Gillingham on the last day of the season, where I think they went down to 10 men that day as well. So that's 46 games. That'd be 28 victories, 8 draws, and 10 defeats. Now that is in the excess, I think 92 points, which is 2 points a game, which is going to be well clear of anybody in this division. Now, Walsall are just under 2 points per game. That's how good they have been in the last 12 months, Doncaster. They have been up there. And when I say stink, I mean just can't find a way in. They can't win a game of football. They just slip up. I don't mean stinking performance. I just mean there's a stinking result just around the corner. Look, in March so far, beat Newport convincingly, lost away at Bromley, point at Swindon, point at Doncaster. They probably feel out of those 4 games, they should have probably 9 points.
Yeah.
Probably, again, Crewe, they got a late goal kind of there to rescue a point there. They've got 5 points. That is the unfortunate difference. Wimbledon, now, I've watched them a few times this year. Very hard to break down, very resolute. And against Fleetwood, they came for a point, and I thought they were very fortunate to get. Fleetwood had 16 corners, over 20 shots. And again, they've been pretty hit and miss in the last month since then. They drew away at Colchester, where Colchester scored a last-minute equaliser through Tavide, lost at home to Bromley, lost away at Wimbledon, which was a really, really bad one, but then beat Notts County, then lost at Cheltenham at home, then managed to beat Carlisle. They are in there, but again, I just don't know what to make of them because they're not a great watch at Wimbledon, but they are probably well suited to this division. Big men up front, players that know the level, physical, and set up well.
Yeah, they are, and I am a big fan of Wimbledon. I obviously don't get the opportunity to watch many full 90 minutes, but when I have, because they've played quite a lot of Tuesday nights, Wimbledon, and when there's been postponed fixtures, well, obviously they have postponed fixtures, so there's been quite a few times that I've been able to watch Wimbledon this season on the red button on Sky because no one else has been playing, but they obviously lost a load of games at the start of the season. And I don't think, particularly from a neutral point of view, they're a great watch, but I think they are the embodiment of a hard-working League Two side. Industrious, keep clean sheets. I mean, 26 goals conceded in 37. If it wasn't for Burnley looking like the most clean of sheets ever, that potentially Wimbledon would be regarded as maybe the best defence in the country, or at least in the 92. But I think that is the definition, I think that's the definition of a good League Two side. If they are hard to beat, they are hard to break down, and they edge out tight games, and they've got a set way of playing. With Omar Boughiel and Matthew Stevens up top, James Tilley coming off the left side, Jake Reeves in the middle. They've got a good side. I like Owen Goodman in goal. I think he's a good keeper. I think Johnny Jackson has done really well there. I really like how Wimbledon have given him time because a lot of other teams would have panicked or would have got bored. They kind of stuck by him. Johnny Jackson's they've believed in him. They've been able to grow under him, and for them to be in the top 3 and bounce back is what I suspect are not the biggest budget in the league anywhere near. I don't think many Wimbledon fans would have expected to be here. So huge praise to Johnny Jackson. Huge praise to the owners, or is it fan owned still, Wimbledon? Still fan owned?
Not sure.
Well, but whoever calls the shots there, every credit to you. So if you are listening, whether it's the supporter group or the owners, I mean, wow, incredible, because they have come down, and when they came down from League One, it was a pretty awful season. They had Robinson in charge, didn't they? He was at Burton this year, and they looked like a really drab outfit, and you're worried about them potentially tumbling because they didn't have the biggest budget. So tumbling like Rochdale have previously tumbled, or Carlisle look like they're going to do that this season. So yeah, we are I'm impressed with Wimbledon.
Wimbledon have only conceded 14 away goals because they've only scored 17. Hard to beat, hard to break down. But you can get at them, don't get me wrong. Fleetwood did that, but they are well drilled. They don't lose many games. I know they've lost double digits of games. They've only scored 49 goals. They've won a couple of games recently. They'll just think, let's get over this line. They're not glamorous like a Doncaster, a Notts County, a Vale, but they are effective. Bradford City's recent home form came to an end recently. Now, my feelings on Bradford City, on Graham Alexander, from watching him at Fleetwood and Scunthorpe and Salford, Motherwell, now at Bradford City. Now, Alexander, it's weird with him. He starts the season, he gets a few really good results, he wins by the odd goal. You think, wow, this team, we're going up. Then in around October, November time, there's always a blip, and there was for Bradford this year. There's some poor performances. You're losing games, and there's some substitutions that you're thinking, what are you doing? His football is diabolical. Then he changes it, and then he goes on a really good run. He goes a bit more direct, quicker into the channels, overlaps, and you're thinking, this is good football. It's winning by a goal a lot of the time, sometimes by 2. He can 1-0 and 2 his way out of the division. And then it gets found out in around March time, April time, and normally they won't have enough to go up. However, this Bradford City squad, I think, is one of the best squads he's ever had. The squad that he had at Fleetwood and didn't get in the top 3, in my eyes, was criminal, with the likes of Parkin, Ian Hume, Josh Morris, Sarcevic, Schumacher at the time. This was like 10, 11 years ago, granted. He should have done better. However, I do feel like his style of play will eventually get found out at Bradford for being not great on the eye. And Bradford City fans are, there's a big bunch of them. They're intelligent. They know the game a lot better than a lot of other supporters, and they can be quite quickly to be on your side, but quite quickly to turn as well. Those 2 defeats against Tranmere at home, again, a defeat where, look, they had 15 shots to 3. Tranmere came and basically did what Bradford have done to other teams this year, 1-0'd it, drilling away the wrong side of a 1-0, result, really. Whereas it was an even game, that, don't get me wrong, but you can be quickly to get frustrated. However, saying that, I do think this team is good enough to get out of the division with 9 games left. It's not a bad period. They've got to get back to winning ways. Do you think this Bradford City side will get promoted? But I think there's nigh on potential record crowd for them in the EFL coming this weekend, Jack. The Colchester, who are in hot property before a trip to Accrington Stanley, where I believe Andy Holt has basically given him 3,500 tickets, which is, again, basically sold the ground for a bit of money.
I'm always going to stick up for Graham Alexander. I'm a Preston North End fan, so I've always been a fan of Graham Alexander. I think he's always very honest, speaks well in the media. I think he's done pretty well at everywhere he's been other than MK Dons, really. I know you said that he didn't get top 3 with Fleetwood, but he still got promoted that season, didn't he? And then year after finished 10th, was it? And then season after didn't go so well, but Scunthorpe, he was sacked with them 5th in the league after finishing 3rd. At Salford, he was sacked with them unbeaten. 5th in the league. Motherwell, he was sacked in August, just a couple months after getting European football for Motherwell. He came in with them bottom of the Scottish League. MK Dons was never the right fit for Graham Alexander.
Because of his football?
I think so, yeah. And they lost a European game that I'm not a massive supporter of Scottish football, but I'm pretty sure he lost a game that they shouldn't have been losing in the Conference League in August. So he got sacked, but he had come in the previous year and taken them from bottom of the league to 5th or 6th, whatever it was, to get Conference League. So again, he's a manager who, and I'm not just saying this with my North End hat on, I think he's a really good lower league manager. I think he is a really good fit for Bradford, for a club that I would compare to, and I don't mean this at all in a bad way, but I'd compare to the Stoke City of League Two, for what has been a graveyard for good managers for quite a long time. Stoke City have been a graveyard for good managers recently. I think Bradford have been, because the expectation and the size of the club and the supporters, they want the good old days being brought back, and they want it being brought back now. But these things take time, and I think Graham Alexander gets gets the community, gets the club. I disagree with you, Ben. I don't think the side's actually that good. I think he's doing a really good job. I think when I was looking at it at the start of the season, I think there's better sides with better youngsters.
That.
I think it's a side. They might have a big budget, but I don't think it's the best. It's the most well recruited side. I think it's a mid-table side, and I think he is really getting the best out of them. He lost the best striker, the best League Two striker.
Yeah.
For injury, I'm a big believer he's doing an excellent job there.
I agree with that, and I think sometimes maybe they're up there because of Bradford City. Granted, and I've said that maybe I'm being a bit, but I do think Michael Mellon's come in, decent strike at this level. Tommy Lee's come in, good play at this level. Who's on the bench? Brad Halliday, solid right back at Bradford, didn't get a chance. Solid right back at Doncaster, come in at Bradford. Didn't really get a chance at Fleetwood at the time. Critchlow Noble again played higher level as well. Brian Baldwin. Lapsey. He's a decent Sarcevic. It's a decent-ish squad that should be in the top 7. However, I get he's got him on a run, but his football will get found out. He's good because it wins games. His style of football, in my eyes, and it's as simple as this, and I'm grateful for what he did for my football club, has got to win games of football because I don't think it's sustainable. For me, when you look at sides like, like Carl Robinson, Salford, and Oxford over the years that gave it a go and were gun-ho, you can kind of go, I went to a game there and we were in it. And, we were 1-0 and we went. When you're watching Crewe Alexandra and it's not winning, you're like, what? I'm bored. I'm sick of it. And it's got to. Sean Maloney was the same at Wigan. Scott Brown was the same at Fleetwood. It will last so long, then it will get a little bit found out. A little bit. That's one thing I will say about him. But he is very, very experienced. However, Walsall, they're 3 points behind Walsall. Now, they won 9 games on the spin, and they were an unbelievable unbeaten run. However, they actually are playing on Saturday without 3 key players in Liam Gordon, Tommy Simpkin, and a Cogbu. There we are. I've got that right. A Cogbu on Saturday. Again, we'll have to make the manager, Matt Sadler, reshuffle his cards a little bit and change it up a bit. They've been poor in terms of performances and results. Defeat away at Fleetwood, defeat away at Bradford, but beat Chesterfield, beat Morecambe. There's been some good results, but I said from about game week 25, they can be a bottom probably 10 club from now to the end of the year and still get promoted. They are still in the shoes. They are still 6 clear of Doncaster. What do you reckon's happened in this last few weeks? Is it as simple as the missing Nathan Lowe?
Yeah, potentially. Or it's like you said about Graham Alexander. Have they been found out? They had a very specific way of playing. They did not want the ball. They were very direct up to the 2 strikers. Have sides found a way of playing against Matt Sadler's? And has he found a way? Is he a capable enough tactician to find a way of slightly altering things? I mean, I'm not going to pretend to be the most tactically astute pundit of all time, but has he potentially been found out, which sounds ridiculous, and I don't want that to come across as I am criticising Matt Sadler, because I had to come off Twitter the other day, or X, as we should officially call it now, when I saw a few Walsall supporters saying they wanted Matt Sadler to be sacked because it's just, it's ludicrous. You're top of the league, you're Walsall. You're top of League 2. You're having a remarkable season. You are the top goal scorers by a country mile, so you can't say you're not being entertained. I don't think there's any side consistent enough to come and take their spot. I don't think there are 3 more teams that are consistent enough to pip them from the top 3. I mean, if they don't finish in the top 3, it'd be pretty disastrous, but it's a bit like, was it Forest Green a few years ago under Rob Edwards when they were so far ahead? And then it's natural to kind of, if you've not got that sort of elite level mentality, it is natural to maybe take your foot off the gas a little bit. And then, you don't win 3 or 4 on the bounce and you're looking around, and mentality wise, you start panicking a little bit. You maybe don't kind of slide into the roles that you're doing beforehand. When you are in momentum, you'll know it yourself from just playing football down at 5 or 6, 7 aside. When you've got a bit of momentum, you're a bit confident. You played well the week before. You come in and you're up for it. But it's that sort of, that mentality. It's teetering around in the back of their minds. Could we actually battle this? Well, how would this go down after what has been a remarkable season? But yeah, I don't think there's 3 sides, because it's going to be 3 sides. It doesn't matter whether they win the league title. I mean, obviously it'd be lovely for them to win the league title, but it doesn't matter as long as they finish in the top 3, because if they go into the top 7, I think they're screwed, because sides will be coming in with momentum, and inevitably they'll be doing the opposite. So it's top 3 or bust for me, really, for Walsall. So, but yeah, no, I think they'll stay there. What do you think?
A little bit like Northampton. Do you remember when Bristol Rovers beat Scunthorpe 7-0? And then I think Northampton won at Barrow 3-1 or something like that. And they went up on goal difference or goal score, something like that, Bristol Rovers. And Northampton was awful in the playoffs. They just had no confidence. Whereas Bristol Rovers went into the playoffs, you'd think, well, they're flying, aren't they? They beat Rochdale. I think they won 4-3 at Rochdale or 3-2 the week before. For me, I think this Walsall side will get promoted just get a few wins from now. I think they'll need 12 points from 9. They've got tough games coming up. I do think they will get in. For me, if I had to say it now, I think Bradford will get in the top 3 with them. I think that it'd be hard for. I think Doncaster will get 3rd. I keep changing my mind. I'll go Walsall, Bradford, Doncaster in my top 3. And then I think it'll be Notts, Wimbledon, Vale 4th, Notts 5th, Wimbledon 6th. And then it's a shootout. I will go Colchester, because I think they've actually got a better 11 than Crewe. That's probably mine. What about you?
On the spot, I'll go. Let me look at the league table. I will go Doncaster 1, Wimbledon 2nd, Walsall 3rd, Colchester 4th, Bradford 5th. Who have I not included here? I will go Notts County 6th, and I'll make it exciting. Why not? We'll go Chesterfield 7th.
Love that. Well, Jack, thank you for joining me today, mate.
I've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much for watching, guys. Please give us a like. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Lots of League 1 and 2 content coming your way. Till the end of the season. Until next time, I'll see you later.